This is the Templeton Community Preservation Committee meeting for November. And Joanne, is Joy with you?
She is.
Okay, so Steve, can you add that?
We will take care of it.
Okay, and there they are. At least there she is. Hello, Joy. Joanne. And Carrie's signing in now too, so that's great. One, two,
No, that's okay. I'd be like,
four.
right.
That'll give us a quorum. Brad is en route, but he indicated he probably wouldn't get here till 6:45 at the earliest because he had to come from Worcester. Scott, would you be so kind as to monitor the TV page or the?
Sure, I can do that for you.
Thank you so much. That
No problem.
gets Adam off the hook because we haven't worked this all out. We got to get rid of this COVID thing. And there's the ghost in front of the barn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. We'll start this meeting officially. This is the Community Preservation Committee meeting of Templeton for November. So we'll go through the agenda. We have some guests here in addition to Dennis Rich, Joanne Burden, Joy Tainter, and Carrie Novak, who are sworn members of the committee. We also have Mike Dixon, the Historical Committee representative, who's not formally signed in and sworn in and therefore will not be participating in any votes. Adam Lamontagne is the town administrator. Bob Zozik, or Bob, is our DPW guy. Scott Dill is from, also works for the town with recreation and whatever else he does. And our good friends at Templeton Community TV. So with that said, we have a copy of the minutes that Dennis printed out. And one item that was not clear was related to, he had the figures for the different Stone Bridge project proposals. And the numbers in there, he had listed, the CPC had committed $35,000 toward the design phase of the project. The estimated cost for a 12-foot wide bridge would be $90,000, and an 8-foot width would be about 15% less. In addition, $42,000 for initial excavation, $25,000 for culvert design and construction, and an additional $174,000 for the final phase, for a total of approximately $240,000. And so Dennis was asking me about how these numbers, they don't necessarily add up. And my point would be that we could just state that, you know, the proposal is on file that has the details for the different, projects. We did have at the fall town meeting of October 26th, a successful ballot, a warrant article for $50,000 towards the Stonebridge project to move that forward. And that will help us better define what the final numbers and proposal to the town will be in the future. So I don't think it's critical that we have minutes reflecting the actual numbers, but rather the fact that they're under review. Does that seem reasonable?
Unless Bob has some additional information regarding that. I don't know.
Well, as you recall, Dennis, we have the proposal with the 3 different phases and it spells it all out. And the town also did receive some funding from the state to support the project. And I wasn't clear where that factored in. And that's why I'd rather err on the side of, not giving numbers, because the people that want the numbers can ask the town for copies or records, right, Adam?
That's why that's a part of the phase 1 portion, the $25,000 plus the $50,000 that the CPC committee signed off that passed at the fall town meeting for the phase 1 portion of the project. And I think keeping it simple like that is the appropriate way to move forward.
Okay, I'll make that change in the minutes then.
Yeah, so you can indicate that, just take out all of the reference to the dollar figures, because we're going to have more meeting minutes about it. We can indicate that we did commit the previous expenditure and now a subsequent expenditure has been added. So other than that, and item number 4, Carter's name is misspelled, Terenzini. where he announced that he would be resigning, which everybody knows because he's gone from not disappeared. Apparently, he will be working with the town as a consultant to help with the Stonebridge project, amongst other things. Is that right, Adam?
That is correct. We will be having Mr. Terenzini work on a couple of the special projects, one of which will be the Stonebridge project.
Okay, so other than that, is there any other discussion that we would, or review of the minutes that you guys would like to go over from October? Hearing none, we will be entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the changes of the figures and the spelling of Carter's name.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as proposed to be changed.
A motion made by Carrie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joanne. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and waving your hand. And/or. And Dennis, are you approving them? You wrote them, or you know them? I'm going to have to mute you guys because I got to open the garage door. The minutes are accepted.
Okay.
It must be at his house.
Okay, so then once Brad gets in here and sits down, I'll have to mute myself again to shut the door, unless you guys want to listen to it. But luckily the dogs haven't started barking. So, okay, the next item is an update on the town meeting. As I have already mentioned, the fall town meeting included an article of $50,000 for the Stonebridge project phase 1. That was approved and moving forward. Okay, and you guys can chat some more.
Steve, would you be able to allow me to screen share, or Hannah?
Okay, the depth perception is probably a little off, but Brad is a full 6 to 8 feet away from me. And let the minutes reflect that he has now joined the meeting. So we've already approved the minutes.
Okay.
And I just mentioned that we did have the fall town meeting pass the Stonebridge project for $50,000. Moving forward, the next item would be the CPC Finances. So I forwarded everybody on the committee and Adam as well a note from the Community Preservation Coalition that the state has announced their match. And the news is good for us because we got 100% match, which is we hadn't the last couple of years. And there only 11 towns got the 100% match. It represents $193,414, which is by far the highest number we've ever gotten. Last year we were at 150,000 or thereabout. And one of the two reasons for this is that the legislature did increase the deed fees that forms the trust fund where the match comes from. So there's a bigger pool of money now, and especially since real estate has really been active of late, as everybody in town knows when they see all the houses going up. So there was a bigger pot of money, and as everybody in this committee and others will know, that whereas Templeton is eligible for additional rounds of funding because we're at the 3% surcharge level. Every town got 26.8%, but those that are at the 3% were eligible for additional rounds of funding, and that's why we went from $53,000 up to $193,000 in state funds coming back to the town. So that is good news, and I've also sent a copy of that. I included the town accountant, but Adam, do we still have the same town accountant? I noticed there was a job posting. Can I ask you about that?
We still do. That is correct, Mr. Henshaw.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that's wonderful because she's great, and I copied her on the note, Kelly. Okay, so any questions on the CPC finances or any other matters related to that? Any comments? No? Okay, so the next item would be current projects, and those are projects that have already been voted and are ongoing. I don't know that we have any updates for current projects. I did get a note from Brian Tangway of the Historical Society. They have an ongoing project. He indicated that he has had some indication from the landowner of the adjacent property that there may be some interest in moving on that, as we all we've talked about that in the past, and whether that would be something where the town could secure a small parcel for open space that would also benefit the common area near the the Grange Hall, the back lot. It's a very small, odd-shaped piece, but it does have some frontage and could be potentially open space for parking or something like that. So, obviously, that's just info. So we'll see. We've been down this road for many years now, actually having discussions. Okay. We're going to keep moving through because I just saw a note my internet was unstable. But any other current projects to update? And as we've briefly discussed about the Stonebridge project, that's going forward. And now there'll be additional funding to help get that to phase one so that we can really define what it will be that we will seek the townspeople to approve going forward for that important piece of property. Going forward now for potential projects, we did vote an indication of approval for funding for Gilman Waite. Going forward, it was decided to hold off rather than to put that on the fall town meeting, would be to bring it forward to the annual town meeting. That, of course, would mean that'll give us more time to flesh out the project. Scott is working diligent with Bob on that. I'm sure to address the different areas. We did get confirmation from town council that the expenditures would fit within the scope of the Community Preservation Act. And I also shared that the Community Preservation Coalition.org is a great resource where all the statewide, all projects that have been funded are cataloged. So if somebody has a question about something, they could go to that website and see, yes, this has been done in Acton, or this has been done some other town, et cetera, et cetera. Therefore, there is precedent, and that's also helpful in the knowledge. It's not legal advice. We do have legal advice from town council on that. Adam, I don't know if you want to share any other thoughts on that.
I'll just be brief. For the most part of the project, town council, because I did receive an inquiry from a concerned citizen in town regards to acceptable use of CPC funds. I wanted to cross my T's and dot my I's, so I forwarded it off to town council. And for the most part, the irrigation, the bathrooms, those are fine. The only area that town council came back would be the concession stand, and pointed out that would be a stretch. With that's the opinion I received. I have since forwarded that opinion off to Mr. Henshaw and Mr. Sozik, as well as Mr. Dill. And that's all I have on that one.
Great, thank you. And so as we go forward towards town meeting, we'll want to hear more from Scott and Bob as you kind of nail down the figures, so that when we present to the town, to the Board of Selectmen for that, because we still need approval from the Board of Selectmen to go on the warrant, and we need to make sure that the capital planning is notified in due process. So that's going forward. I know everybody on this committee has expressed joy in seeing that go forward and finish up. So, if there's always a few sniggling details, whatever the language needs to be compliant, we will certainly do that. Scott, did you want to weigh in, or Bob, on anything on that?
Mr. Chairman, not at this time. I think we're going to hold steadfast and bookmark that $230,000 that was voted on, plus the additional offset of the $30,000 from the school district recreation and the Gilman Waite Fund for the irrigation portion of the project. So Bob and I will be getting with capital planning, and Bob will present that on his buildings and grounds meeting with them.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Now, actually, as we go forward, and I talked about current projects, I did skip over the fact that 4 Elm Street is still an open project, and there's been some discussion from the Board of Selectmen. As we all know, there was originally, the project was under the open space domain to create open space by removal of that decrepit building and taking care of the remediation of the site related to asbestos. And then there was discussion of making it as a veterans park, and then there was some further discussion. And I think now they want to move forward with the balance of the funds to kind of, take it in a different direction than a veterans park. And Adam is asking us to, weigh in on this. Can you please share with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Let me just share my screen here for a moment. But before I get into the rough draft, I will say that we've went in front of the Conservation Commission already. We had a survey out for a month-long period where people in the town were able to participate, and the River's Edge Conservation Area was the choice selected by the residents that participated in the survey. The Conservation Commission has recommended the name of 4 Elm Street to be changed to River's Edge Conservation Area. This will certainly, I thought, was a great way to empower residents, engage them in the process. I know Mr. Dill thought of the idea as well with Sheila Pelletier, who volunteered some time on this project. We certainly want to continue moving forward. As Mr. Henshaw pointed out, these funds have already been appropriated for a conservation open space concept. What I will do is now proceed forward. So if we could get some support on, because it will be going to the select board for a formal name change to River's Edge Conservation Area. But we would like to see the sign off from the CPC as well. So I'm going to share my screen here and show a rough draft. Now, granted, I'm not sure if you could see this on your screen. Okay. Is that up on everybody's screen?
There it is.
Okay, this is a rough draft of the proposed conservation area open space. Sheila volunteered some time, came up with this, but this still needs to be finalized. As you can see, the road runs here. The river is right over here, historical conservation marker. This obviously, we want to continue this concept, but it's subject to, obviously, the architect going through, looking at everything. And this is certainly something where we're going into winter. We have time. The architect could come up with some really nice plans, I say study plans, for about $1,000 that we're looking at for approval. And could be something that really brightens up the neighborhood.
Great, thank you. Now, I don't have those figures in front of me, but it's my recollection that there was a balance in the area of $40,000. Is that, do you have those numbers?
I believe it's 37,000.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. So, so what we're looking to do then is to, get everybody's feedback on renaming this as River's Edge Conservation Area and going forward and kind of validating their approach to reach out to an architect for $1,000 of that $37,000 balance to move the project forward. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions on that?
So this, is this going to require additional funds or?
Mr. Rich, I believe we can complete this project with the allocation that's there,
Okay.
the appropriation.
Now, one of the things that we've spoken about in the past is having a kiosk there that had some historical information. I do note that on your rendering, you did have some historical marker type information things. So glad to see that. I don't know what that will entail, but obviously, I think it's important to, use some of the money to get some kind of public information out. Because that obviously was an important part of the industry of the town till it all washed away. It doesn't sound like, or I haven't heard anybody expressing any concerns or anything. Would we entertain a motion then to approve the renaming to River's Edge Conservation Area for 4 Elm Street and the expenditure of $1,000 of the existing appropriated funds for the architect?
I'll make that motion. I'm not going to repeat it though.
Yeah, right.
What you said.
Okay, a
I'll
motion
second
made by Carrie and seconded by Brad to approve the name change and the expenditure of $1,000 for architectural funds of architectural. Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, there was no comments on the public feed on that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I always
No
forget
problem.
about that. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye and or waving.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that was under current projects where we backtracked to, and then potential projects. We've talked about Gilman Way. Adam, did you want to speak further about the potential projects for anything like Baldwinville or? We had
Right now, the MPZ development is going through their due diligence period on the, which I believe goes to around mid-December. So they're just having their studies done and everything. They're looking at different aspects of the building, and that's where we're at right there, right for the project. And we're looking at possibly having, and I did talk with Matthew Zoller, having a community outreach hearing with the neighbors sometime thereafter the due diligence period. And that's where we're at with the Baldwinville Elementary School project for now.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I know it's a process and we want to line up the ducks, and I agree that it's going to be very important for us to know what the local impacts will be and what the, neighborhood concerns might be, et cetera, et cetera. I would rather have some information like that before I brought it to this committee for a vote, just so we don't want to assume that everybody, how it might go. So thank you for that update. Now, were there any other potential projects that anybody had? I know we've spoken the last time about the cupola, or some couple of times ago, and there was still we had some comments on the feed that there is a desire to see some kind of resurrection of that. The first time we went through, it was kind of a sticker shock type thing. And I don't know if you guys have got any more info on that or if that's still percolating.
John,
Yeah.
I brought it to the historical commission meeting that we had about a month ago. There were 4 members there who were talking about it. I guess the decision was made that we were going to push any action on that back until spring town meeting, which was good because that gave everybody at that meeting the time to go up and take a look at what we were talking about. And the historical commission will be coming up with a recommendation as far as what we would like to see done. I can tell you verbally that everybody would be interested in maintaining that architectural detail. But we'll let everybody, we'll have a vote on it and get you something in writing.
Great, thank you.
John, I would like to see it be as it was. And since we are getting 100% reimbursement, I think it's another great project to get going on. Plus the fire station. Don't forget that one.
I knew you were gonna if I didn't.
Then I'll put in my 2 cents worth. I'm not sure that it serves any purpose, and maybe that's an expenditure we don't need to have. The cupola.
Well, East Templeton has always had it, and that's all we have down there. We would like to see it continue.
I don't believe you can even see it from the road any longer because of the trees.
Well, cut the trees down.
All right. We'll agree to disagree on that.
Okay, that sounds great.
That's fine. one thing to note about East Templeton is the continued presence of that church for sale that really is, kind of takes up the whole center. And would the
true.
townspeople be interested in that, either for a creation of open space or some kind of, we lost the Baptist church in Baldwinville, churches, it's going to fall down. I mean, Baldwinville Elementary, that's in the same boat, but I don't know what the price tag is or if there's any appetite or whatever for that. But if that wasn't there, that would be open up more opportunities for parking, both for Scout Hall, but for other retail operations. I don't know if that's anything anybody wants to consider discussing or moving forward on. I don't think anything too urgent.
When it was on the market before, and I think it came off and then went back on, it was at 175. So I don't know what it currently is at.
Okay, yeah, so that's a lot of money for a parking lot, but then again.
Yeah, and it's probably higher than that now because of everything skyrocketing.
Okay, well, we'll let the selectmen stew on it. If they think they want to do something, then we'll certainly talk to them. Do you have any thoughts, Adam?
Well, right now on the Scout Hall project,
Well, I'm talking more about the church next door.
I haven't received any, there's some little discussion, but nothing that I could recollect outside of the, this wasn't on a meeting or anything. But I can say the Scout Hall project, we plan on having that at our meeting the 23rd to discuss further. Bob has been discussing with us because essentially what has happened is the work has stopped, and now that winter's approaching, we're looking at two options: continue with the renovations, or winterize the building. Or what we can do is winterize the building and then continue with the renovations after the winter. Now, the reason for this concern is we have some ongoing challenges there, which Bob, if you could kind of jump in to share with the CPC committee where we're at with the construction and just the issue we've had with that furnace. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, well, the project's been still for some time, and the COVID has impacted us. I believe the quotes that I received for all different phases of work to be done are going to be changing due to the COVID. And recently we had Peterson Oil come out and service all the town furnaces and inspect them. And unfortunately, the furnace at the Scouts Hall has a crack in the firebox, which I'm waiting to find out if it's going to be repairable or not. The way the technician talked that day, it didn't sound too promising. And as Adam was saying, where winter's setting in, we don't know what kind of winter we're going to have. Probably be pretty busy right out straight with winter operations and resume the construction in the spring.
Are you seeing impacts on like air handling requirements due to COVID or anything like that? Are they talking about that?
I'm sorry, John, what was that?
I'm just curious as to whether you're hearing from the state that there's changes in air handling requirements, or I know there's a challenge with a lot of buildings being old and not properly air exchanged.
This one definitely has good air exchange on the building. It's got the it vents up through the attic, and everything's pretty good with the building itself now that the foundation is fixed and the water problem is pretty much taken care of and controlled with dehumidifiers and a French drain that was recently redone. I'm not afraid of any damaging happening like the old school where the paint just starts rolling off. Everything's freshly plastered and painted and sealed up. So I think we won't have an issue as far as if we decided to winterize it for the season.
So the select board will ultimately be deciding, and I want to make it clear, there's two options here. Option one, winterize it. Option two, not to winterize it. But I think Bob highlighted the issues of not winterizing it very clearly. And his folks are going into the winter season as well. So that's important to keep in mind as we move forward.
It certainly seems to me like you should winterize it so that we can then, that's a maintenance issue. That's not a CPA fundable item, but that puts it in the stead for the continuing renovations that are to, protect.
Has anybody checked with Chesapeake Oil or Hotelet about another furnace? It's a small building. It shouldn't take too big a furnace to be efficient.
No, we haven't discussed replacing the furnace as of yet. But I can tell you, you're probably looking anywhere between $5,000 and $7,000 to replace the furnace. That's not a big expense. In the winter time, like I said, where all the quotes that I have are probably stale, and that'll give me the time to requote everything again and pretty much start over with some more updated quotes on materials and labor and whatever fees I might have for that.
Yeah, those types of expenses, of course, are allowed under the CPA. A replacement furnace would be required, if it's required, to maintain the integrity of the building going forward, as opposed to the oil that goes in it. It's the town's job. But okay, thank you. Yeah, so the 23rd, you said, of November.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. We just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on that project because we know the CPC was actively involved to get Scout Hall to where it is today. It's a work in progress, but we've come a long way from when Bob first came into town.
Great, thank you. I probably should have gone through current projects a little slower because we keep going back to them. Are there any other current projects or potential projects that we should bring up?
John, I just wanted to just update that church is on the market right now for $99,900. It's not $175 anymore.
Okay.
So the price is lowered.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I know there was the beginning of a project for 1 Elm Street, the emergency management building. I know some preliminary work was done. I don't know what the status is on future work. I understood that we were nearing the point of having an engineer come in and looking at systems. I'm not quite sure on that. Was that tabled or is that still active?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing us back to that, Mike. This is the old fire station. We have had some discussion about moving that forward, and we have not gotten any traction on it. We did have some concerns about, the integrity of the building. Could it handle the replacement work? So one thing that could be done is we could start a phased one approach where we ask the townspeople to expend the funds for the engineering study and the survey to determine what should be done in the phase two. So an annual town meeting project that would be a scope to provide the services necessary to determine what the scope of a full project would be might be a prudent way to go forward. I know that that building gets some use. It's the emergency management team is very important to what we do here in town. So I don't know the best way to move forward on that. We spent, I believe, $1,000 to try to get some preliminary estimate figures from an administrative budget. But I don't recall where it stands now.
Okay. I would point out, put my historical hat back on. That's the first building in the Baldwinville Village Historic District on Elm Street. It starts there, then wraps down around the corner and up towards Cumberland Farms and down the side streets. So that is in the historic district. So there is some potential for getting historical commission funding from the state also.
Well, that's good, because that was one of the things that has been discussed, is to revert it back to its original configuration of the doors, et cetera. And so if we're going to go forward with a project in the historical district and also seek historical funds, we have to determine what is the, external appearance and, that we're shooting for in terms of the original construction or the time period, for example. And what is it, around the 1910 or 15 or something?
Yes. Yeah.
So
turn of the century.
I think this would be a good place to start. We can't just say, all right, we're going to do this and that, because we don't know until we have professional opinions. But if we ask the townspeople for $30,000, $40,000, whatever the figure might be, to get a full engineering design and a project lined up that meets the historic preservation standards, then we can come forward to the townspeople and say, this is what we're going to do if you vote for it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
That would be reasonable.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a good idea. And at least it'll be something, or someone's working on it.
So Adam, can you dig up what kind of or does anybody know what we got for, kind of a back of the envelope quick pass, or did that even happen? Was it Mr. Curtis had spoken to somebody, or?
I believe Bill Harris across the street had come over and done a walk around, but I don't think we ever had an engineer take a look at the building.
And I know Rich Curtis, at least when I spoke with him, I believe he was looking at phasing it in, last I heard. But that's going back some time, so. Mike, am I right about that? I mean.
Yeah, that's my understanding also. I tell you what, why don't I start? Let me get Rich off the beach down in Florida and ask him a few questions, and we'll get him started back up on it.
Well, we did have that study done from architect Andrew last year, which I was going to put in capital planning again this year. I don't have the information with me at this time, but it was, believe everything they came up with myself, Rich Curtis, and Andrew going through the building inside and out. It was a little over $400,000 worth of work that needed to be done.
Yeah, and I believe that's when Rich Curtis decided that he's going to do the phase-in.
Okay, yeah, we know that you've got to eat that, you eat a whale one bite at a time, right? So, I mean, I guess the next thing would be to, similar to what we've done in some of these other projects, get them to a bid spec and define what the scope might be. $400,000 in one whack is a lot of money, especially when we may have some other pending requests for big ticket items. But if we can do it in a phased approach, I mean, as we noted today, we got a state match of $193,000. If we got the same match next year, we're going to continue to generate income to be spent on these types of things. So that doesn't mean we can't do it. We just need to not do it all at once. So, Bob, what do you think we should do to move it forward?
Well, the first two things I'd see that I would do to that building would be, first, make it weather tight, replace some rot and some sills and repointing. And then I think I would focus on the electricity, because it's still on knob and tube. That and the library is still on knob and tube. So definitely needs some big updating.
Okay, so I think it would be prudent for us to put together a project that requests funding in May to move that thing forward. And certainly that sounds like a good, so we'll talk about this again next month to try to move it forward. And if there's anything we can do to do that, we do have some administrative budget funding if we need to spend some more money to draw something up, but I'm happy to just move off of that topic right now, unless anybody else wants to weigh in some more.
I just wanted to also mention the library roof project. Now, this isn't coming out of CPC. This is coming out of the Norford's gift. But if you see a lot of work going on, we've successfully handled the procurement for that project. It's coming out of gift funds. And I think you're going to see a nice product once that's finally completed with the library roof and the associated work on that porch and everything. I think that's something to highlight of positive progress in town.
Good.
Yeah, I was very pleased to see that. And the library does have $70,000 approved for a historic rehabilitation, renovation, whatever it becomes. And that's kind of lingering there. And because there was talk about expanding and preserving. This would be the preserving part. A roof is a maintenance issue, so I'm glad to see that that very generous gift is being put to good use. So, good job. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already. We have an opportunity to bring up any new business to the committee. Scott, could you double check the thing?
There was one comment from Mr. May, but it's been retracted.
Okay. Sorry if we didn't get to it in a timely fashion. Any old business we wish to discuss? So as it stands, our regularly scheduled meetings are 6:30 on the second Thursday, which would make the next one December 10th. And I was thinking, I don't know if if people even want to do these things at night, or they'd rather do them there in the day, so that if we have, staff people from town that come to these meetings, they don't have to do it on their own time. But, or do we just keep it at 6:30? I don't know what people's availability are with their work schedules, et cetera. I know I work at home a lot.
I'm not available. I work out of town. Don't get back into town like 4:30.
So 6:30 is okay with you then?
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, we're all going to get vaccinated soon and go back to doing whatever we used to do, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you should plan on it too soon.
Well, essential personnel, come on, aren't we? Okay, so the next meeting will be 6:30, December 10th. Any other discussion or business to bring before this committee?
I have an unrelated question. Does anybody know what's happening with the request for parking spaces along Boynton Road?
Yes, that went in front of the public hearing, went in front of the select board. Select board talked about doing a study. And right now, I think I've been talking with the police chief. I just spoke with the library director today. There might be a compromise coming down. I will have to talk with the select board, but that's something that is ongoing. And quite frankly, Bob's been involved, and it was kind of finding that balance, which I think we will accomplish.
Okay.
Great, compromise is good. Okay, is that all for you, Dennis, or?
That's it.
Okay, shall entertain a motion to adjourn?
So move.
From Joy, second?
Second.
Seconded next door to Joanne. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you in a month, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you to our townspeople, town staff for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.